Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. You guys don't need it. Thank you. My name is Stockton Wick, and I have the honor of being the city manager for the great city of Cocoa, and I'm going to kick this off today. So welcome again to the 19th Annual Economic Development Great job, everyone. I know y'all were talking to one another. Everything that's going on here. Please continue to consume this great food from Keep It Local in Brevard. I'm happy to say if the food is great, let me hear you clap your hands one time. See, ladies, awesome job. Buy local, keep it local, spend local. They're affectionately located in beautiful downtown Hot Chocolate, better known as what? Cocoa. So we'd like to thank them very much again. As the line diminishes and my appetite increases, I would like to acknowledge some of the various individuals. Please, ma'am, please, sir. First on the list, acknowledgement of city staff. Will all city staff members please stand and be recognized? All city staff. Let's give them a round of applause. Nothing like big ships, little ships. Friendship, partnership, and that's what we have with you. Next, I would like to acknowledge members of the various boards and committees. Would you please stand that are in attendance? Let's give them a round of applause, the board members. Why? Because we can accomplish more when we work together. So thank you very much. And last but not least, the acknowledgement of the Citizens Academy members that are in attendance. Would you please stand, past and present? Do we have any of those? I know two are husband and wife. See, I know you are. That's the land of milk and honey. That's our group over there. As we proceed on, I would like to say, not last but not least, right on time.
I would like to introduce our economic development presentation from the effervescent, illustrious, industrious Angela Hessing. So let's bring her on with the round of applause.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for that very nice introduction. The energy in the room is high, so I hope I can keep it there. There are items on your table today, like the calendars and the chocolates, that are for you to take in the bags that are also provided, so enjoy those. I'm going to provide a summary of the economic development activities in the city of Cocoa over the past year. Driving innovation and opportunity for growth and prosperity has elevated our community over the past year. Projects such as online permitting, community improvement, stormwater improvements, planning for the future of our parks, and sustainability planning for future generations, Cocoa's future is bright. Cocoa offers a number of programs and incentives to entice development in the community, from commercial facade and small business assistance programs to ad valorem tax incentive funds and opportunity zones. The city is poised to bring in new business and continue to develop and grow this community. Another way the city is driving innovation and development is by creating new, easier permitting options for residents and business owners to do business within the city. We are pleased to announce our brand new same-day and over-the-counter permitting options that are available every Wednesday to make obtaining a permit from the city easier and more convenient. And coming this spring, we will be debuting our online permitting services. Investing in the community is another way Cocoa is driving economic development and opportunity. This past year, the City of Cocoa and the Cocoa Redevelopment Agency made significant investments in the Cocoa Village waterfront that was negatively altered by Hurricane Irma. The T-Dock and day slip expansion brought 14 new day slips and a brand new 250-foot T-Dock to Leelinger Park to expand amenities for boaters. The Riverfront Park Promenade project added 2 500-foot viewing platforms and over 800 feet of enhanced pedestrian corridor with connections to the water. These projects completely transformed the waterfront area to the parks and expanded the connections to the waterfront and businesses of Cocoa Village. In June 2020, the City of Cocoa and the Dinah Square Community Redevelopment Agency, in partnership with HUD and Brevard County, completed the construction of the new Dr. Joe Lee Smith Community Center. This approximately 16,000 square foot facility replaces the functionally obsolete center to its south. Based on community input, this center provides youth and adult recreational programming, services to assist in workforce development, and community assistance services. The ribbon cutting ceremony was held this past October. A priority of the City Council was the development of the Parks and Open Space Master Plan. The planning document will provide a direction for the city's future by identifying the current levels of service offered, noting the strengths and weaknesses of these activities, and recommending opportunities for future parks and open space improvements. The plan is scheduled to be complete early this year. This past October, Council approved the City of Cocoa's first ever Sustainability Action Plan. This plan is the culmination of over 800 hours of volunteer work over the past 2 years, completed by the Sustainability Advisory Board. It is a roadmap for improving the prosperity and quality of life for Cocoa residents through the intersection of the environment, economy, and society. Even though a national pandemic has caused an economic downturn for some local businesses, the city is working to maintain businesses with the help of innovative regulations and by working with Brevard County through the CARES Act funding. On the positive side, the city of Cocoa has welcomed 112 new businesses in the past year, creating 144 full-time jobs and 57 part-time jobs. Among some of these new businesses were companies such as Aerospace Steel, also known as Vulcan Welding and Fabrication, Tapas and Tacos, Stumpy's Hatchet House, and many more. The city of Cocoa has also seen a surge in home-based businesses over the past several years, with a large concentration of these businesses being post-COVID. 5+ Marketing and JPH Strong are just a few of the many new home-based businesses we have in the city of Cocoa. There are many more businesses featured in your booklet at your table, so I welcome you to take that with you and please read about all the other new businesses that we also have in the community. Each quarter we feature a new business in our business spotlight. The spotlight appears on our quarterly newsletter and they are featured on our website and social media pages with a short video. You can view them on our economic development website at choosecocoa.org. Here is the latest one that we put together. to each other this week at Crispy Crunchy Chicken, you'll know that we planted the seed. For over a decade, Cocoa has seen steady population growth due to our commitment to building a resilient infrastructure. In the past year, we have seen a resurgence in housing development, which has elevated residential housing availability in our community by more than 1,500 units. Subdivisions such as Summer Breeze, Addison Creek, Lakeside Palms East, Fern Meadows, and many more have seen hundreds of new single-family homes built in the last year. New multifamily complexes are also in the works, such as Cocoa Grand and Integra Preserve. The City of Cocoa and the Diamond Square Redevelopment Agency also worked with Habitat for Humanity on the Female Veteran Home Build Project. Habitat for Humanity began construction of 6 homes on Whaley Street in the Diamond Square community that brought an opportunity for low-income female veterans to own their own home, which was nationally recognized by Habitat for Humanity. 2 of them are currently occupied by female veterans. Economic development is not successful without a strong community, and Cocoa is a robust and vibrant area that pushes and supports growth. Just last night, our Planning and Zoning Commission approved a 202,000 square foot distribution center on Grissom Road. Very exciting for the community. Everyone sitting here today is a community partner, board or committee member, and/or community volunteer. And by all of us working together and engaging in our community, Cocoa has been elevated to a great place to live, work, and play. We sincerely thank you for your continued support and contributions. Our Community Services Department consists of our Director, Nancy Bunt, Deputy Director, Charlene Luderman, myself, and many board team members who are here ready to assist you so that Cocoa can continue to flourish. The investments we have all made in this community to drive economic opportunity and growth will ensure prosperity for Cocoa for many years to come. You can always visit our websites at choosecocoa.org or cocofl.org, where you will find all the information you need about the city and also upcoming events on our social media pages. Thank you so much. I'm excited to work with each of you as together we build a bright future for a great community. Now I would like to welcome up District 4 Councilperson Lorraine Koss, who will introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Angela, for that great presentation. I had no idea you were going to flash my picture on the big screen. But I appreciate that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, all politicians, all business people know how important economic development is. But that message was really driven home for me when we did our resiliency plan last year. And when we looked at our vulnerabilities, we realized that economic development is where we wanted to focus some attention. So I'm really glad that we brought Stockton Witten on board, because I think he's going to do a great job for us. And I'm really happy that we have partners like the Economic Development Commission. Just a couple months ago at my Rotary Club, I met with Linda Weatherman, the executive director, and I was really attracted to her energy, to her vision. And she was interested in me because I have a water background. And this is an example of how economic development folks look. They're always out there in the future, right? So she's looking at eventually attracting a water technology cluster to the Space Coast, which makes a lot of sense. My husband will tell you he works at NASA. He works in how to use water in space. And of course, we are an enclosed capsule here. But it is my pleasure to introduce Brian Baluta. He brings to the EDC 2+ decades of strategic communications experience, including service with 3 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, the U.S. Department of Justice, a U.S. Senate candidate, and Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval. Skilled in the planning and execution of integrated marketing communications campaigns, Brian has helped diverse audiences better understand complex subject matter, including legislation and policy concerning the economy, healthcare, and tax reform. His work in the Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development saw him interface closely with Tesla to coordinate the successful role of the economic impact study of the electric car company's $7 million gigafactory. We want one of those here. And he's also, because I'm a student in communication, my undergrad in communications, I also recognize that you, as an alumnus of Syracuse University Newhouse School of Public Communications, that is the best, it's considered the best communications school in the country. Welcome Brian Baluta to the stage.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Councilwoman Koss, for that very gracious introduction. Always good to be in Cocoa. I'm thinking I need to stick around and work remotely this morning, so I was planning on lunch at Kreiderman's, but I think I need to go to Crispy Crunchy Chicken.
Yeah.
You know, it's needless to say, 2020 was a tough year, and rather than harp on that, I thought I'd say a few words this morning about New Year's resolutions. You know, the city always does such a great job, Samantha, putting this together. It's always such a positive and uplifting event. And, you know, my resolution, maybe many of you have the same one out there this year, is to exercise a little more gratitude in my life. And if that's the case, you're in luck this morning, because the data in this presentation, I think, will make you more grateful to live and work on Florida's Space Coast. There's a lot of great news that came out of 2020, and we've been looking for it, and we found it. And I know for one, I'm grateful that 10 years ago, the last time we faced overwhelming economic adversity, leaders in this community took measures to not only build on our strengths, but diversify our economy, which has made it more resilient. A year ago, when I was giving economic presentations, that was more theoretical. We had hoped the economy was more resilient. Now, given what we've been through this past year, we know it is. Before I get into that, a little bit about the EDC. And I see some members of our executive committee out here. We're a private not-for-profit organization that works with the county to do economic development for the entire county. This is Florida's model. It's a public-private partnership. Enterprise Florida is the state level. We're focused on securing funds for our investors in the community and helping the municipalities also pool resources and achieve a strategic economic development plan. We're only good as our board of directors and our counselors and volunteers. I see a past chair, Brian Lytle, in the audience. Good to see you, Brian. And we've got good participation from across the business community. And that's, you know, important, right? When we recruit companies to the area, we don't want them to stay holed up on their campus. We want them to be engaged, active members of the community, and address issues like workforce, the environment, things of that nature. Economic development, you know, Angela touched on it. You know, our ostensible goal is to retain and attract jobs, but there's more to it than that. Bear with me for a second. Yeah, this is some examples of our program of work. We run the Manufacturers Association of Florida Space Coast. There's over 500 manufacturers in the county. And you'll see, based on the data, this is a big reason why we've weathered the pandemic storm better than most. See Manufacturing for New Eyes is our image and attraction campaign for manufacturing jobs. You know, we're blessed in this community that we're creating jobs for everybody. It's not just with people with master's degrees in engineering, but we've got production level jobs that offer continuing education opportunities and a lifetime career of good wages and benefits. This campaign is about pushing people to our Certified Production Technician program, which is in partnership with Eastern Florida. And it's a 10-week online course that's continued through the pandemic. And we've had people, we have had single parents, we've had ex-offenders, chronic unemployed individuals who have changed their lives through the CPT program. And that's something that's been supported by the municipalities and the state. Thank you, Senator Wright. And this is something that, some of the best companies in this county, Embraer, L3 Harris, are looking for production level associates. And you can get your foot in the door with the CPT program. SNAP is something that we do with the municipalities in order to expedite permitting. Obviously, COCO's ahead of the curve on that one. Technology docking is a program that we have with NASA where we take some of the brain power on the Cape and we connect them with local companies that are trying to overcome technological issues. Live Big Space Coast is our high-end talent attraction campaign. I encourage you to go to livebigSpaceCoast.com. There's a new blog post on there about Cocoa Village. But that's about showcasing people from across the country, the quality of life we have here and the economic opportunities that we have here in terms of jobs and housing and recreation. Space Coast Salutes is part of our military relations program. And you'll see later on in the presentation that plays a bigger role than just doing the right thing. And on to the real data, the meat of this presentation. So it helps to have some historical context when we figure out what we've just been through. So prior to the big recession, we were in a very similar point in our economy. Nearly full employment. Anybody wanted a job, had a job. Fast forward a few years, the unemployment rate spiked to nearly 12%. And that's actually something that we just witnessed this past year. It happened much faster. To give you an idea, at the heyday of the shuttle program, 16,000 people were employed in connection with it. Direct job loss when the shuttle wound down was greater than 7,500. That's not an easy number to replace. Indirect job loss, nearly 15,000. Just a astronomical blow to the community. The Brevard median sales price went from nearly 230K, plummeted to under 90K. That's one of people's biggest ways of saving money, right? Equity in their house vanished. So this community, the combination of the Great Recession and the loss of the shuttle program, that's a double haymaker right there. But we fought back, and we'll review some of the projects that really got us going and back on our feet. But since that time, you look at the numbers; they speak for themselves. Nearly $2 billion in capital investment. Some of the biggest names in aerospace and industry. And why did this happen? It didn't happen by accident. You can see the roller coaster ride that we've been on. And one of the reasons I showed this slide is it's significant because for a good portion of the past 10 years, we were lagging behind the U.S. in terms of job creation, unemployment rate. And then, thanks to some wins and success breeds success, we caught up and we're far surpassing the national average and the Florida average in job growth rate and unemployment rate. And this is something that you'll see is carried through during the pandemic. People always ask me what that dip is in 2017, 2018 there. That was actually Hurricane Irma. So you can see the impact of the storm there. A theme that you'll see throughout this data is that Brevard County really punches above its weight. So here you can see, how we're faring against some of the other metro areas in the state. And, we're a little, the next census will show we're a little over 600,000 people, but, we're attracting huge amounts of capital, over $2 billion there. We're creating, as many jobs, if not more, than some of the major metro areas in the state. And we've really created an environment here that is attractive for capital investment. And where does all this money go? Housing, we talked about a median sales price, and you'll see where the current numbers are, is a big recipient of that. Transportation, people are buying a lot of cars, spending a lot of money on their cars, and we continue to do that last year. Food, that's how the Kreidermans and the crispy crunchy chickens of the world are being funding, and this is gonna help bring back those hospitality and restaurant jobs that we lost during the shutdown. One of the reasons that Brevard is more resilient now is that we've led the state in the creation of manufacturing jobs over the past 3 years, and it's by a wide margin. So Florida, business-friendly state, the economy is booming. I think it's by itself, it's 17th biggest in the world, and Little Brevard County is outpacing everybody else in the terms of manufacturing. And it's not just aerospace. Now this really shows you how we're punching above our weight compared to the rest of the country. So this is the prestigious Milken Index, which evaluates the best performing metro areas in the country, right? And they look at innovation and technology, job creation. From 2018 to 2020, Brevard County jumped 47 places into the top 10. And to give you an idea of who we passed, it's places like Nashville, Tennessee, Spartanburg, South Carolina, where they're making more Beamers than Germany does. Really the who's who of economic development hotspots. And you look at the company that we're keeping. You've got Austin, Reno, Nevada is a place that I have some experience with. I worked for the member of Congress who represents the area, and then the governor. Reno went in the span of probably 6 years from the punchline of a joke. They were calling it the Detroit of the West, which was not a compliment at the time. And through economic development and being willing to work with an innovator like Elon Musk, they attracted a $7 billion gigafactory. So if you have a Tesla or admire Tesla, all the batteries and the powertrains are made in a factory in Nevada, and it's changed Reno. It's become frankly, a kind of a funky Western Austin, and really a desirable place. A lot of Californians are now moving there, and it's really changed the landscape of that city. But you look at Silicon Valley, Orlando's in there, Boise, Idaho's hotspot. We're right up here with all these communities. I see Dr. Mullins here today. He'll be familiar with this slide. Hold on a second. So this, we use this Milken Index. You may have heard we're a finalist to be the host of U.S. Space Command Headquarters. This is the Joint Combatant Command for the space domain in the Department of Defense. Compared to our competition on that Milken Index, you can see San Antonio is 30, Colorado Springs, which is the incumbent, is 36. Our big competitor for all things aerospace and space, Huntsville, Alabama is 49. Omaha's 127, Albuquerque, New Mexico is 61. So in terms of everybody bragging about, we have aerospace, we have defense, as far as the competition goes, they're not anywhere close to us. So this is an illustration to show you just how hard the pandemic shutdowns hit. As I said, in January, I was giving economic presentations about what a great year 2020 was going to be, and all the highlights we hope to have. And you can see we're creating a lot of jobs, and then the pandemic hit and reversed all that and then some. And obviously we weren't the only ones to be impacted by that, but it was a pretty jarring shock to the economy. And this is an illustration of just how hard we were hit. And I mentioned back in the last recession, we went from full employment to about 12% unemployment in the span of 3 or 4 years. This happened in a month. And we'll see by one slide, unfortunately, a lot of low wage earners took the brunt of this. But we have hopes that those jobs are going to be coming back. And we're creating production jobs where if somebody is not able to maintain their living in hospitality or retail or restaurant, that they would have an opportunity to work in manufacturing. But we've nearly regained all the jobs lost to the pandemic. And in a later slide, I'll show you what that mix is, because it's not all the same jobs that were regained. So this is an illustration of how we fared unemployment-wise during the pandemic compared to the other major metro areas. And as I mentioned before, you know, we were on the wrong side of the unemployment numbers the last time around. All the metro areas in Florida were faring better, the state average was better, the national average was better. But you can see we've weathered things, you know, a hair better than some of these areas, and unfortunately places like Orlando that, you know, Disney World's the largest single-site employer in the United States, 77,000 people, they're out operating at half capacity now. When you're overweight in one industry, that's a good example. You know, Orlando's got a lot of things going on technology-wise, but they're so heavy into travel and tourism that, you know, that explains that number. But again, our economy is significantly different than we were in the past. Which is Samantha. We need one of those engineers. Okay, and this is how we're currently faring, you know, compared to the rest of the major metro areas in this during this pandemic. You know, it may be by a few percentage points in some cases, but those are your neighbors, those are your family members, those are entrepreneurs who are taking risks and weathering the storm. And we've been monitoring these stats across the country. We had actually been on the top of this list when we look at some of the major metro areas across the country that are known for job creation. You know, we're a hair in the middle now, but this is certainly a good peer group to be a part of. And with the way things are starting this year and the amount of investment interest that we've seen, I'm confident that number will creep back down. This is a particularly interesting chart because this shows you the job growth numbers from the beginning of the year to the end at different wage areas, right? And as I said, you know, you can tell by the national average, the low wage earners have really, you know, taken the brunt of the shutdowns. And you know, that's no different in Brevard, but if you notice, our hit is about half the national average. And I think a big reason for that is you look that we actually had in this time period middle wage job growth and high wage job growth. And all those individuals and their discretionary income were still being spent in the community at restaurants, you know, for recreation and different opportunities that presented itself as restrictions have eased. So this is a big indicator as far as our ability to come back, because all those high wage earners, when things relax again, are going to want to spend their money. And they're going to do it based on those breakdowns that we saw before. 11% of that discretionary income is going to go into restaurants and help entrepreneurs like Crispy Crunchy Chicken, you know, realize the dream of expansion. And here's that big number that we were talking about before. We're now at a record median sales price for single-family homes and condos in this community. And you look at the increase year over year during a very challenging year. That's a great indicator of confidence in the future of this community. People are placing bets that this is the place to be for the long run, especially compared to the rest of the country or even the state. This is something that we track. We think it's a pretty significant economic indicator. Taxable sales gives you a good handle on what's going on in the economy. And this was year over year after a pretty good year in 2019. You look at the building investment, taxable sales, up nearly 40%. You talk about people putting a pretty substantial bet on the economy here. That's incredible. Obviously, it's good across Florida right now. If you know, everybody's going through the same thing with the pandemic, if you're going to do it, you might as well be in a place like Florida. You can see we're on the plus side of business investment too, which is equipment and resources that go into running a business. So these are great signs for optimism here. I want to show you this snapshot of the taxable sales, because this was one of our first indicators over the summer that we were going to be okay. At the time, we were only experiencing a 4.8% decrease in year-over-year taxable sales, but we were the only one who was in the black in terms of building investment and business investment. Nowhere else in the state had those kinds of figures of taxable sales, which gives you an idea of the health of our economy. These are some of the major projects that have really changed the landscape here in Brevard. This was an announcement we were happy to make in the spring. In a normal year, it would have been a big deal. During the middle of a pandemic, it was huge. Those 675 new jobs give you an idea of what kind of jobs they are. The average annual salary is $109,000 a year. So that's, you talk about discretionary income coming in this community, that's huge. This is a global headquarters and manufacturing facility. Old reports indicate that supersonic private jets have huge upside. I think, everybody's heard about when the Model 3 for Tesla came out, they had hundreds of millions of dollars in deposits for people lining up to get one. Ariane's got $6.5 billion in potential sales for clients. So as you can imagine, high net worth individuals would probably prefer to fly private and as fast as possible, and Ariane's going to be doing that here in Melbourne. And then the jet is, it looks like a Ferrari, right? It's a pretty nice thing. Embraer was really one of the projects that got us off the ground and told people that the Space Coast was open for business. And to give you an idea of how important these economic development wins are, we're Embraer's North American manufacturing facility for their executive jets, but they've expanded here 6 times since we won, and now they're even branching out into medevac jets. So once you get a foothold, the initial numbers, as Angela can attest, when you're talking about promised jobs and capital investment, very very often are conservative. And this was a big win for the community. And you get Embraer, and then you get Northrop Grumman, and then you get an Ariane. Lockheed Martin Fleet Ballistic Missile was another big win for us, and this actually was part of a long game for the EDC of Brevard County. But Lockheed relocated from Sunnyvale, California, the heart of Silicon Valley, and one of the reasons they did so is because we have a good military relations program. The Naval Ordnance Testing Unit at the Cape was on the BRAC list and was going to be relocated, and we successfully reversed that decision. That does not happen typically. And because No2 was here, that eventually led to Lockheed Martin making their way from the West Coast. And Lockheed's got 35 acres up in Titusville that they have big plans for. That could shift the center of gravity, especially if we get U.S. Space Command, for Lockheed Space to expand here. Blue Origin, and you talk about a return on investment. This was made possible in part by an $8 million grant from Brevard County. If anybody here knows how to turn $8 million into $1 billion, please talk to me afterwards. But you've got far more than what Blue Origin originally promised when we won this project. 490 full-time employees, 6-figure average wage, and it's a huge impact in the community. And if you haven't been by their campus in a while, I highly recommend it. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. It looks like something out of a Marvel movie. It's pretty impressive. Firefly, this is not a big name, but it's an interesting company. It's out of Austin, Texas, and they're going to be manufacturing their rockets here. And that's going to happen at Exploration Park on Merritt Island. They're pending some tests out on the West Coast, but this is a good example of, you get a Blue Origin, and then you get an innovative company like this that could be the next Blue Origin. SpaceX, other than the birth of my daughter in December, I think this is one of the highlights of 2020. To give you an idea about, how something like this happens, when it was announced that the shuttle program would be winding down in 2005, Linda actually went out to the West Coast to Hawthorne and met with Elon Musk before anybody knew what SpaceX was. And he said, she said, if you're going to be launching rockets, you need to do it here, and we're going to make that happen. Fast forward to 2020, and they're taking astronauts to the International Space Station. U.S. Space Command, I mentioned, we're one of 6 finalists. December was a pretty busy month. I was supposed to be on paternity leave, but I ended up working this project more often than not. We had an in-person visit from the Air Force on December 8th, and a virtual visit, which included Dr. Mullins making the case for Brevard Public Schools. On December 21st with the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force. He said he sits through a lot of these briefings, and he thought ours was extremely well done and very professional. And we're supposed to hear a decision from the Secretary of the Air Force in short order. There are a couple other site visits that were supposed to happen this week. And I think we're in for some good news. The process is very transparent, very data-driven. So even if we don't win, being a finalist sets us up for probably some other Space Force projects down the road, which would be a great win not only for our military community here in Brevard, but it creates a big center of gravity to try to attract other companies like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and defense contractors that want to be close to that leadership. Here's some shots of that presentation to the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, Governor DeSantis, Lieutenant Governor Nunez, Reps Bill Posey, Michael Waltz were part of that, as well as an all-star team from the community. It was really a full-court press on behalf of the state and Brevard County. Commercial development isn't necessarily the EDC's bread and butter, but it's something that we keep tabs on, and obviously all this economic growth is going to drive that. And again, when I talk about people making bets on the future of this community, even during the pandemic, we had about a baker's dozen worth of hotel projects. There's town centers, mixed-use developments happening, from Titusville all the way down to Palm Bay. I think that spine of 95 you're going to see in the next 5 years really transform the community, and it's going to be great for everybody here in terms of residential and dining and recreational opportunities. And again, this is where all that discretionary income in terms of high-end engineering jobs that we're helping to create is going to be funneled into really this quality of development across the county. And we talk about the big names, but it's not just the big names. We've got manufacturers of all shapes and sizes, everything from semiconductors and medical devices to auto parts. These are some in central and north Brevard. We're making pressure craft, firearms. People say that the United States doesn't make anything anymore. We do in Florida. We've always made history. Now we make everything else. But this is a good example of why we're doing better than most. This is something that's happening up in Titusville. This is actually the site that we're recommending for U.S. Space Command, but there's hundreds of acres up around the Space Coast Regional Airport, and the Tyco-Coco Airport Authority controls those and has them available for development. But what's significant is that Spaceport Commerce Park and the airport constitute the state-designated spaceport territory, and that's where a lot of the Space Florida financial tools come to bear. Like I said, that's why we're recommending U.S. Space Command go there. But this neighborhood's pretty interesting because you have Lockheed Martin, you've got Boeing, Space and Launch Division headquarters. You've seen what's happened on the Cape, you've seen what's happened around Melbourne Airport. This is something we want to bring to the north end of the county. One of our future challenges in terms of how do we sustain the growth that we have and retain the character that makes our community a place that we all want to live and work. How do we brand ourselves and market ourselves? Because we're creating all these jobs for high-end engineering talent, and frankly, the nation, the world is not creating enough engineers. So we're competing with the Austins of the world, the Bay Area, New York, you name it. So one of the things that the EDC will be undertaking with our community stakeholders in the near term is is, how would we describe ourselves to people who don't know the Space Coast? Aren't we culturally confident? I used to work with the Texas delegation in the U.S. House, and you talk about culturally confident. Nobody's more culturally confident than the Texan, right? And you ask them, if they're in New York or D.C. or wherever, their dream is to get back to Texas. Is that the case with the Space Coast? Is this a place that we dream of leaving or coming back to? If your kids go away to school, are they going to come back, or they can't wait to get out of here fast enough? So, a part of this is aspirational. What do we want to be? What don't we want to be? But a part of it is also very economic based. So that's a challenge that we'll be addressing in the near future. But in the meantime, there's a lot of good news out there. Don't subscribe to the doom and gloom. Everybody's going through this, but if you want to be going through, if you have to go through it, you want to be doing it. So we're thrilled to have the City of Cocoa as partners and all of you in this room here today. And I'd be happy to take any questions from the audience, but I think there's a lot to be happy about and grateful for in 2021. Thank you very much.
As far as that Space Command goes, with the new administration, how does that work into it?
So John Henderson, who's the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, has said that they designed this site basing process to be as transparent and defensible as possible. So the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, the Secretary of the Air Force, Barbara Barrett's going to make the ultimate decision. And, she's well respected. I think one of the things that Florida has in its favor is that there's bipartisan support for it. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz is on House Armed Services Committee. You've got former Governor Charlie Crist, who talks with the Democrats. I think there's going to be a big case for Florida, should we be selected, that would make it very hard for the Biden administration to turn it down. If they decide to go in the other direction, there are new pieces of the Space Command and the Space Force that we could be eligible for. And certainly the exercise that we've undertaken to make the case for U.S. Space Command is going to have benefits for COCO in terms of marketing the community and how we sell ourselves to other companies and the military as well. Because a big part of that was how military friendly this community is. We've got 11% of the population are veterans. We've got over 6,000 military dependents who live here. They love the schools. They love the quality of life. Often when people serve at Patrick or the Cape and they leave, they come back. So that was a major thing that we were able to put forth for the DoD, and that doesn't go forgotten. So that will have benefits even if we're not chosen. That's a good question.
I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the high-speed rail, how it will affect the economy of Brevard, or will it benefit, or will it pass us by? What are your thoughts?
I think, again, that theme of people betting on Florida, right now, that's the first privately funded railroad in the United States since the creation of Amtrak, right? So it's a very capital-intensive undertaking. And the primary business model for it now is to move people from South Florida to the Orlando area and get them to the attractions up there. And once they get that going and it becomes viable, I'm confident you'll see a stop, and probably COCO would be the most likely location. And right now they talk about and right now it's about traveling distances that are maybe a little inconvenient to fly or too short to fly. But with all the infrastructure that's for instance going into Orlando Airport, I think it'd be pretty appealing for us to be able to hop on the train and leave the car here, right, and just take it to the airport. So that's something that should be viable, I would think, as that business model gets underway. Yes, sir.
I want to thank the Space Coast and the state EDC for their presentation on bringing the Space Force headquarters to Brevard County. I don't think people fully appreciate the importance of the state of Florida recognizing that the best place in the state of 40-acre campus for the space headquarters at Space Coast Regional Airport. I mean, that is a big thing for this area, is that in all the state of Florida, if we want to put our best foot forward as to where to put that headquarters, 40 acres at the Space Coast Regional Airport is the place where everybody's putting their emphasis. That's a pretty big thing. Thank y'all.
Well, thank you, and that's a very good point, right? Because we just didn't beat out 26 communities across the country. There were 8 other Florida communities that were vying to make it to the finals. So I think it really does speak volumes about, you know, not only the Space Coast but the location, which I think is one of the best development opportunities in the area right now, based on you know, the spaceport territory, the location, proximity to you know, transportation, get to Orlando, the Cape, the port, and you know, one of the big things that I didn't mention is that it is an FAA licensed commercial spaceport, and that's one of 13 in the country. So when you think about the growth of commercial space, and you know, the Cape being dominated by civil and defense space, as well as, you know, commercial launches, you could really see a center of gravity sort of shift to this side of the lagoon. So that's a very good point. Yes, sir.
All right. Can you kind of walk me through the down select process? Process and the timeline. I think you mentioned a little bit on the slide there. And also, in addition to that, you know, how do you feel about the chances of the incumbent in Colorado Springs? I mean, they are known for, you know, space command, space headquarters, and things of that nature. So I kind of wanted to get your insights in on how you felt about that.
So it was a pretty interesting timeline. The communities across the country and the state had to self-nominate in June. And we had to meet certain criteria in order to self-nominate. You had to be within 25 miles of military installation. You had to be one of the 90 biggest metropolitan statistical areas in the country. You had to meet a certain quality of life index that the Air Force had designated. And once we made it through there and the governor had endorsed us and sent us on, there was a substantial community input questionnaire. So you know, that involved you know, quality of schools, how military friendly you are, proximity to what they call mutually beneficial space assets. So that's one area where we really ran up the score. You know, part of the knock against us compared to Colorado Springs is they say, well, you're just a place for launch, right? You just we make the satellites, the spacecraft, you send them into space. But that's not true anymore. You had the richest man in the world invested $1 billion in Brevard County to not only manufacture rockets, but he put his mission control here. So this is actually the first time since the 60s that we've had a mission control. And when you think about the direction that space is going and the influence that somebody like Blue Origin may have, you know, that mission control becomes very big. You know, Bezos talking about a road to space, right? So he uses rockets as, you know, some semi-trailers going up to space, and that's going to be a lot going on for this area. So we were really able to make the case, and point to like L3Harris. You know, L3Harris is a Fortune 500 company, global headquarters here. They got 2 division headquarters that do nothing but work for the Air Force, right? So that was something that we were able to pitch. So once we made it in the finals, you know, we were told by the Air Force the 6 communities any of them could host the Space Force. And part of the impetus for breaking out the Space Force and kind of having a new approach to space was they wanted to get it outside of that culture of just the Air Force, just Colorado Springs, right? And our case was that, unlike any of the other competitors, nowhere in the country do you have the convergence of civil, defense, and commercial space. And if you really want to be innovative, and if you really want to work closely on requirement development, things of that nature, experimentation, this was the only place to do it. Plus, the quality of life is pretty unbeatable. So if you're going to get people to move from, you know, DC or Colorado or wherever, you know, with all due respect to, you know, Alabama or Omaha, I'd rather be here. So I think we've made a strong case. We've heard different things. You know, we've heard that it's down to us in Alabama. You know, Alabama's always a thorn in our side. They've got a very influential congressional delegation. But if you look at the actual metrics and what we bring to the table, you know, on the merits, I think we win. But that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Yes, Brian.
I just wanted to take a second to say thank you to the EDC as a longtime person involved in the organization, to stop and think for just a second that it was in 2010 when 60 Minutes did a show called The Death of the Space Coast. That was only 10 years ago. And to see where you guys have led us to in 10 years is nothing short of miraculous. So, I want to encourage everybody in this room that we need to continue to support the EDC. If you're not involved, you and your business need to be involved, both with your time and with your money. But again, kudos to you and Linda. I don't think a lot of us would still be in this room had you guys not been as successful as you have been.
Brian, thank you very much. And the EDC is only as good as its leaders and its board members. So you deserve credit, a large amount of credit in that regard. But we're thrilled to have Councilwoman Koss on the board now. And you know, she touched on an issue that we're going to be exploring and using her expertise. But you know, water tech could be the next big thing. You know, we're cooking with space and commercial space, and I think that's going to be going along. But when you think about the one issue that affects all of us globally, and particularly in Florida, you know, we've got a lot of brain power here, and you know, you start planting the seeds now, and it may seem daunting, but it seemed daunting 10 years ago, right? In the spot you're in. So, you know, it's easy to get caught up in COVID and politics and whatnot, but you know, the people in this room and in this community are, you know, I wouldn't want to be with anybody else, and I think I wouldn't frankly want to be anywhere else. There's a reason I relocated my family here, because this is where we want to be long term. This is where I want to raise my kids. So, I'm excited to be here. I hope you all are too, and you know, let's do this. Like, this is fun. This is great. So thank you for that time.
Let's give Brian a round of applause, please. Stockton Winston will give us closing remarks, but as Brian alluded to, if we are not challenged, there will be no change. So let's make this change right in this room. Again, let's give Brian a round of applause. Acknowledge two individuals, my sister city, former city manager. I know she had to scoop boogie on to the next phase of her day, Dr. Brenda Fetchel. Let's give her a round of applause. And also from the city south of us, South Cocoa, former city councilman, my childhood chum, Michael Minot. Yeah. If you cross over the bridge to Merritt, we have the mayor of Merritt, Ralph Perone. So thank you, Ralph. So without further ado, let's give our city manager and staff a round of applause, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, thank you all for making this a positive experience there in the 19th annual economic development breakfast there. There are a lot of good things, I think, going on in the city. A lot of discussion items from the village to affordable housing down in Square to economic development in the Grissom industrial area there. So a lot of items that we have on the table for the commission, for the council to consider. Obviously, we need you there in partnership with the council and with the rest of the city there. Again, as Brian said, you know, one of the true measures of success for any area for the city is when our kids actually believe that there is a real economic, a real social, a real cultural future for them as they go off and get educated and want to come back. Thank you to Samantha, thank you to Angela, thank you to the community development staff for putting this together. I am excited 3 months into the job. I will tell you that the doors to my office are always open, and so please come by. Please tell me we've hit the mark. Please tell me we've not done as well. We're open and ready to move forward. Thank you again. Please grab something as you go out on your way. If you haven't gotten enough to eat, I think they're still available to serve you and to grab something. Thank you again for what you do for the city.